Hey there, and welcome to another episode of ColorPro Talks Mini, where we connect with inspiring creators to dive into the art, tools, and stories behind their craft. Today, we're thrilled to invite Mikita Yo, an incredibly talented photographer and filmmaker renowned for his use of color and authoring an impressive catalog of LUTs and presets, something I know all of you are very excited to learn about. Now, without further delay, let's jump into the talk and learn about Mikita's creative process. Mikita, welcome to the ColorPro Talks Mini, the last one for the year. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
As is custom for us, do you kind of want to introduce yourself a little bit and tell the audience kind of about what you do and how you do it?
Sure. My name is Mikita Yo. I live in Italy. I'm a full-time content creator, mostly photography and videography. My niche is traveling, so I create all my content around traveling. I teach people how to take better photos, how to edit them, how to make cinematic videos, and how to make cinematic color grading.
Right, yeah. I think you kind of touched on it there, but to me, when I see your feed, a really distinct feature of that is just the color. It's like an explosion of color, and I'm more of a saturated color kind of guy as well. So
Mhm.
I definitely appreciate like the kind of lengths you go to kind of perfect your like the presets and the LUTs and just the way you approach your photography and videography. Um, but then how did you kind of, I guess, find this inspiration or like how did you find your style?
Well, I started quite a long time ago. It was around 12 years ago. And actually, when I did start with photography, I mostly did just black and white. I had like a DSLR camera and I just put it on a black and white mode. So because colors were like super distracting, and I wanted to like master the composition first. And then later I introduced the colors and I kind of fell in love. So I actually started to pursue the colors even more sometimes than the composition, like the combination of the colors. And yeah, that's kind of how I fell in love. And from now on, I mostly chase the light. So for me, the most important thing in photography and filmmaking is the lighting, because the better the lighting is, the more interesting the lighting is, the better the colors are.
Right. I mean, that's a super interesting thing you mentioned that because I'm actually having a phase right now where I've just disabled all the color from my EVF and I'm just purely focusing on composition again, going back to
Yeah.
basics. But then how do you kind of start to see those colors? Like, are you looking out for, is it like shapes or is it you looking at inspiration from other creators maybe?
Oh, well, first of all, let me talk about the inspiration a little bit. My biggest source of inspiration, it's nature. So I definitely look at other creators. I like any different art types like architecture, paintings and stuff like that. But my nature is my most like inspiring thing, where I get like all my colors, the compositions, the textures, everything. Like I just can look, for example, Iceland as a country is a huge inspiration to me because it looks like another world and it has like incredible color combinations and stuff like that. So nature is a big thing for me. And another thing is actually by the education, I am visual designer. So like the colors were a big thing to us because I work like with branding and like we did create like a lot of logos and like illustrations. So the colors where the color theory was like a huge part. So they taught us about also different color combinations and what each color what emotions and feelings each color can pass, right? So that's also a big thing. So if I want something engaging, vibrant, happy, so I would probably go for something like orange, red, maybe green. And if I want something like moody, I will probably desaturate those colors and go for something more like brown, maybe like something more black, gray, and stuff like that. So just trying to match the colors with the mood and emotions that I want to convey to my audience in the video or the photos.
Right. So that's interesting. So you're saying like almost desaturation is also just as important when it comes to, I guess, playing with color.
Absolutely. Like those little adjustments, like you probably have seen a lot of like videos online, like people create those funny reels where they like sitting very close to the computer and they making those little adjustments in the Lightroom. that no one will notice, but for you it's important. I mean, because they are. Sometimes, like if you slightly desaturate the image, it becomes a little bit more moody. And again, as we remember from like previous thing that I said, less color, more attention to the composition, and more room for the people to kind of think, like add their own thinking to the composition, to what they're looking at. And so that's a very powerful tool. Like even this light adjustments can create like a huge difference in terms of like emotions and whatever you want to tell to your audience.
Do you kind of have your own personal rules about kind of not overdoing it? Because I know for a lot of beginners, that's a really common mistake. You know, you'll see them clarity 100, saturation 100, and then it looks good for like 5 seconds, and then suddenly you're like, oh, it's disgusting. But do you kind of have rules to kind of keep yourself self-contained, like still make it look vibrant, but I guess not overkill?
Well, I would say today I don't really stick with any rules. I think I just like feel it. You know, it's just a matter of experience. But I remember I had similar experience when I just like started. I remember the first day I downloaded the Lightroom. I put like my best pictures in it, and I started to edit, and I thought I did such a crazy edit, like super cool. But now I'm looking at those and they just acid, you know, it's just so oversaturated, so over edited. So I think everybody is editing too much because they just have so many tools, have so many opportunities to like tweak the image, and they just don't know what they're doing. And what they want to do is they want to completely transform the image. So since like they think if they editing, the image is supposed to look like very different from its original kind of look, right? But it's not the case. And usually what I did is I will edit the image today, and then I will look at the image tomorrow again. Because usually you spend a lot of time editing and your eye kind of get used to it, and you didn't notice those very vibrant, oversaturated colors anymore, because it's just like for hours you're looking at the screen.
Yep.
But if you with a fresh eye, you will look again tomorrow, you will notice that, oh, well, we probably have to desaturate that a little bit, or maybe like reduce the contrast and stuff. So this is a very good tip, to just give it a day. Do not like rush and post your photos or videos like right away. Just give it a day or two, look at it again, and you will definitely know what to do.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. I guess to summarize it for our audience, so it's just as important to kind of work with the colors that are already in your image, but also, as you say, because our eyes always get used to things, it's kind of nice to force ourselves to step back a little bit.
Absolutely.
And then come back to it with a fresh set of, I guess, eyes.
By the way, another tip that I would say is very important. Depends where you post it. The colors may look different. So if you edit from your computer or laptop, then you like put on your phone, you know, on the social media for someone else from another, probably like an Android or an Apple phone, it's also going to be different. So what I also do, I don't have a lot of devices on me, but I usually have the computer and the phone. So I will send the video to my phone and look how it looks there. You know, I'm checking the composition, I'm checking the colors, and kind of finding the middle ground. So it looks on the computer like that, it looks on my phone like this. So if I like it, it's perfect. If not, I'm trying to find a middle ground so it looks kind of good on both devices.
Right. Oh, I've been down that rabbit hole as well, like checking my Sony versus my Samsung versus my iPhone, and I realize, oh God, it's too red here. And I kind of just gave up, but it's good to see that you kind of take multiple screen references.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of talking about the color and kind of how people might overshoot it a little bit. For kind of people just starting out with color grading, is your process, do you think, or at least not necessarily process, but your thought process different when you approach like a photograph or a video?
Oh, I would say yes. It's usually different, and the main difference is it's not the colors, it's like the entire edit. I would say it's definitely easier to edit photos because they static images. So it's a frozen moment. So it's just like one light source. It's like one lighting. It's like just one image. So it does not change. But if
Yeah.
the video
Yeah.
is longer, even if it's one take, you may rotate, you may be at a different angle towards the sun or whatever source of light you have in. So it's changing. So also the colors is changing because there is way more usually like objects and things in the frame with different colors. So what I usually do, if we're talking about LUTs like pre-made settings, I may drop my favorite LUT on the video and I see how it looks. It's just like a starting point, and then I kind of adjust from there. Or if I edit the video from scratch, which sometimes even easier than throw in the LUT and remake everything, because usually just like going forward a little bit, if we create LUTs as I create them, I usually create LUTs that helping me edit similar type of footage. So for example, I may create a LUT that's very good for the sunset. All the sunsets around the world, they will have very similar colors and very similar exposure,
Oh, right.
especially at the same time, at the same position of the sun, it will be very similar. It's just like with a preset for photos. If it's a sunset photo, so you can create something for that sunset and you can use probably for other sunset photos. It may not always work perfectly, but the adjustment will be very, very minor to just make that perfect edit.
Right. No, I've actually, yeah, started seeing quite a few presets that are divided into like sunset, sunrise, and
Yeah.
twilight, things like that. So yeah, I think, yeah, thanks for your explanation. I think our audience will definitely appreciate that kind of logic. So I guess the priority really is the lighting conditions, not just randomly
Mhm.
dropping off a LUT into any scene. And we all know you kind of are quite experienced in the LUT world, both kind of LUT slash preset, I should say, both in terms of creation but also using it. How do you kind of avoid the trap of, like, especially with beginner photographers, they've got just tons of LUTs that they've just bought. And then you might start a photo set editing with one LUT, and then you come back another day and you're like, oh no, I like this one better. And then you just keep switching back
Mhm.
and forth. And then in the end, you just don't know what to do. Do you kind of
Mhm.
have a way of narrowing down your choices or saying, this is the way?
Well, I would say it is true. Sometimes it's for a lot of people, it's even for me, it's also sometimes very difficult to choose. But it's not about like the amount of LUTs that you have. It's about uncertainty that you don't know how you want your final footage to look like. Because a lot of people just want to drop a LUT and make their footage look better or in a certain way, but they don't know which way. So that's why a lot of LUTs may work, because a lot of LUTs may actually improve that LUT footage, but you cannot decide. So what I usually do, I know that, for example, this particular video has, I don't know, let's say my favorite color combination, probably a very mainstream one, but still I like teal and orange the most.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is an orange and teal or blue and yellow, so something that can be orange and teal, I know that I won't pop up those colors. So I have, for example, like a couple of cinematic LUTs that I have that I created, and I know that one of them will do that job in terms of the color, and that will give me a starting point because it will adjust the colors as I usually adjust, and with the exposure, I will have to work separately. So I usually create LUTs for myself and also for the people that I'm giving away. There are LUTs that helping you adjust the colors. There are LUTs that may help you just with exposure, and there are LUTs that may do the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exposure and the colors and the other effects if necessary. But sometimes they separate those. So like this LUT is going to adjust just the colors, going to tweak the hues as I like it, and then I will adjust the exposure myself based on the video. So that's also a very good approach in terms of how you can peak, create, and use the LUTs. And going back to your question, how to choose between among all of those LUTs that make in
Mm-hmm.
your footage, just decide how you want your video to look like in your mind,
Mm.
perhaps, or whatever, or maybe you want it to look like a movie or something, and
Yeah.
choose the one that kind of brings the image closer to that final look that you have in your head or to the reference that you have in. if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I guess the way I'm interpreting it at least is it's basically important to have the final vision or kind of an overall vision before
Yeah,
we even record, essentially. And
absolutely.
then the color grading process is just the color grading process just becomes, I guess, just a filling in the gaps in the way that you intended it to be. So then, do you think there are, aside from the ones we discussed, any other kind of major mistakes you see beginners make when it comes to coloring the photos or videos?
Well, I would say the biggest one is what you mentioned at the beginning is over editing.
Mm.
So people just want to completely transform their footage, and I would say kind of hold yourself there and fight that desire, because a lot of people have that desire, and that's kind of what experiences is just you learning not to overdo it. Probably like I said, you can take this advice and just look at the footage tomorrow again. Even if you come absolutely love it today, still give it a time.
Hmm.
And believe me, like tomorrow you will make a better edit, just because, you know, your eye will kind of look at everything like in a fresh way. And another thing for the mistake is to have a very clear vision of what you want to create, whether it's a very similar look to a movie, or maybe you want it to be very happy. If you want it to make happy, so you can do something more vibrant. If you want to make it moody and pass some kind of let's say moody emotions, so pick the lot for it. So I'm not saying that there is one lot that can fix everything. No, all of the lots, there are so many lots, a lot of creators do that, and all of those lots are in a way amazing to the goal that those creators have.
Yep.
And that's why it's very nice if you buy in those assets, buy them from the creators that you like their style, and you want something similar. It's not necessarily copying their style, but it's, first of all, it's a good starting point, because again, you may also like orange and teal. I'm not the first one who like it. Obviously, I probably also got inspired, and those colors, I just love them personally very much, and that's what I do. And find a creator that you like, and also look how they approach their colors, how they approach the grading, and compare uh, their grading to your grading. You may definitely find, especially on the social media, if you a travel photographer or travel videographer, and you definitely have one or two creators that you're following, that you like their colors, that you like their photography, you like the videography. Look at the similar images that you take. For example, if it's a sunset shot again, look how they edit that sunset shot, and then look at your sunset shot and how you edit that, and compare those edits as well. In a lot of creators, you can also find a before and after images, because they kind of show that as well. So you can see how your image look at the beginning, how their image look at the beginning as a raw, for example, a log footage, and then look at the final result and your final result, and try to maybe at some point kind of like copy their edit. If you don't want, for example, to get the LUTs from them, you can just try to edit yourself. Try to kind of copy what they're doing, not because you want to be completely like them. You're not going to be, because your photos are not the same, so it's not going to look the same, but
Yep.
you're going to learn a lot in the process, mistakes and
Right.
stuff. It's like when you learn music, you play Mozart, right? You play
Yep.
one composition over and over and over and over again, just to kind of understand like where the keys are, just kind of
Yep.
like master. So it's not about copying, it's about like learning. So I think that would be the best thing, and that's what I did in the past. If you have time, I can dive a little bit. It's kind of like a little like tutorial, what I did in a long time ago, because I was very obsessed with editing, and I knew that editing can definitely elevate your photography in
Yep.
terms of like kind of bringing that style of yours, and kind of start to grow the audience that like your style, your vision. And I feel like editing is that portal into your world, into your vision. So editing like helps a lot. A lot of people don't like photographers that edit their photos, but from my experience, people who do not like editing just do not know how to edit. Like
Yeah.
in a 99% of the time, they just don't know. They don't want to learn, and they kind of tell everybody around that it's bad. But it's not a coincidence that all of the cameras, all of the professional cameras have a raw format in them.
Yeah.
It's exactly made for the editing, and no one has to post raw photos. It's just not created for this.
Yeah.
And going back to that tutorial, what I did is I found when I was learning editing, I found 5 creators that I'm very inspired of, and I looked at their photos, I looked at their videos, and I started to kind of write down things that define their style. What do they do? What their
Okay.
photos look like, what their videos look like. For example, a lot of photographers take photos only when the sky is beautiful, when the sky kind of looks epic. So they never take photos of a landscape or anything when there is just like a plain, boring sky.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
always look for that perfect moment, or if they, for example, at this particular spot for just a limited amount of time,
Yeah.
they may take a beautiful composition, but they will edit the sky later. But they will never publish the final work with a boring sky. So that's their kind of thing. They bring that
Right.
magic into the landscape by capturing or editing that beautiful sky. That's the first thing. Second thing, for example, talking about videos, maybe it's always natural light. So a
Mm.
person always take videos during the golden hour or the blue hour.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the lighting is already giving this very soft, kind of like warm light. And in most of the cases, it already gives you certain look. And it's very easy to be more consistent with the editing as well. It's just because the base is very similar all over the videos that he's
Right.
taking.
Right. Okay.
So like those things, what makes creators unique, I would say, is because they really narrow down uh, the things that they like. So they not just like randomly going around taking pictures of videos of random things. No, otherwise everything would look very random. Is that they like a very specific lighting, colors, I don't know, objects, compositions, and they taking very similar approach every time. That's why it's very consistent and it's beautiful.
Okay, yeah, no, I've heard similar advice from especially other travel photographers who, when they get asked, like, how do you balance enjoying the travel with, getting the dramatic light? And a lot of the advice they give is like, oh, I only shoot during sunrise and sunset and I just enjoy the day in the middle.
Yeah.
Are you also, and I know like other people use kind of like backlighting techniques and things like that, but are you also like a golden hour kind of person?
Yeah, I definitely pay a lot of attention to the sun, and
Hmm.
I depends on the project, but for my personal things where I have a lot of time, where I can schedule like shooting any day, I can wait. So I would probably shoot during the golden hour, sunset, blue hour, or sunrise. So we also have blue hour and the golden hour during the sunrise. So I kind of approach that time. For client projects, I may do a very random time, depends on the like deadline
Hmm.
and the opportunity that the weather gives me. Sometimes I just have 2 days. If it's rain, I have to do the rain then. However, for my personal things, I would definitely choose a proper time.
And you touched on kind of presets as a good starting point there before. And just kind of before we get into the tutorial for this episode, how did you kind of get into the whole world of creating LUTs and presets?
Well, I guess it came from in a way, in the past, I spent a lot of time editing, and it's not always went very smooth.
Hmm.
And actually, even today, if I edit the image myself, it takes a lot of time. So essentially, I would say first priority for the LUTs and the presets is just saving time.
Yeah.
I can definitely recreate almost any look that I want to, but it takes a lot of time. And again, I still probably have to look tomorrow and make some adjustments with a fresh eye, as I said before, because it's still doesn't matter how experienced you are, your eye still gets used to it and you need a fresh eye in the morning. However, the first thing to save time, and the second thing is to kind of separate the styles. Sometimes I may experiment and I accidentally come up with a nice edit, and I just save this as a preset or a LUT just to see how it works for other videos, because like the editing process, it's never stop developing. You always develop it. Even if I have, for example, my cinematic pack that I'm using for a couple of years now, like nonstop. But even those, they work like pretty good for me because I kind of like narrow down like everything that I need, like sunset, for the moody lighting, for like a more low light situation, for different types of things, for different types of scenarios that I'm shooting at. And but still, sometimes it just depends on your personal mood. And I mean, I'm still kind of like growing and experiencing different things. I'm like, oh, this is like orange and teal, but I don't want orange and teal today. I want something more like yellow and blue, you know? And it's very easy to kind of do those little tweaks. And sometimes some people think that, oh, the creator completely changed his style. Actually, he does not. He just like playing a little bit because creators get bored even with their style. It's not like if you discover something that you like so much, it does not mean that it's gonna stick with you for the rest of your life. I probably by now for this like 12 years, I had like maybe, I don't know, 20 different styles, you know, because today you may like portraits more and something works for the portraits better than for the nature, but tomorrow you will probably go into the macro photography. So it's just this, it's never stop. It's like non-stop process. You always learning something new, always developing, always experimenting.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And with that, I think this is a really great segue to this episode's exclusive tutorial where Mikita will show us how he develops his presets and gets his distinctive look. So Mikita, take it away.
Thank you for joining me in this tutorial. I'm going to show you how you can create your own Lightroom presets in a Lightroom Classic. Let's get started. So in order to start and create your own presets, first of all, you have to import the photos into the Lightroom. After you did that, just select the image that you want to start with and go to the develop panel right here on the top. So we're gonna start with basics and I will show you how I would edit this image and save those settings as a preset. Let's go. First of all, I adjust the color balance, and usually how I do that is just by pressing on this tool and select the whitest part of the image. The white spot would be the best, and click there. It automatically adjusts the white balance for you. Perfect. Then let's go to the exposure, bring it down just a little bit. For the contrast, I like it up a little bit, just like so. Let's bring the highlights down to bring those details in the sky. Let's bring shadows up a little bit. Perfect. And let's go with whites down just a little bit. Let's leave blacks as it is. What I like to do is to bring clarity down to give this a little bit of a dreamy look, as you can see. Maybe 33 is fine. Give it a little bit of a texture and bring the dehaze up just a little bit for those details and the contrast in the sky. Perfect. Let's bring saturation up just to give it a little bit more of a color. And let's give it a little bit more contrast with a curve by creating an S curve. Put one dot in a shadow, one in a highlight, and bring it up in the highlights and bring it down in the shadows. And let's bring this bottom point up a little bit just to bring some fade into the blacks. Perfect. Let's go to our color mixer and give it a little bit of a cinematic look. Let's make red more as red. Let's give orange a little bit more red look. And let's make yellow more as orange, just like so. We don't have any green or aqua here. Let's do blue. I'll make it a little bit as teal, just like so. This is perfect. Now let's go to saturation and make yellow a little bit more like so. And let's bring our blue also up just a little bit. Let's go to luminance and adjust the brightness of these colors a little bit. I would like to bring our yellow up just to make the building pop slightly. And for the sky, let's go and bring the blue down a little bit just to make this contrast between the sky and the building. So let's make it brighter, just a touch. Perfect. I would like to skip the color grading just for now and come back to color grading at the end. So let's go and adjust the details first. In the detail tab, you can use masking to adjust sharpening. To do that, you can just hold the option key or alt on a PC and bring it here, and you can see the areas that highlighted will be affected by sharpening. So I would like to bring just a little bit of sharpening to the building and maybe some details of the trim, so like so, and bring my sharpening to about 77. Perfect. I would like also to give a little bit of vignetting to this image. So let's just go bring it down just a touch. And if you like a film look, then the grain would be also a great addition. I don't really use it too much, but here we can probably do about 25 just to give it a little bit more of a texture. Great. Now let's go back to color grading. Since I was shooting during the golden hour, I would like to bring a little bit more of that warmth in that image. So let's just bring a little bit of that like yellow into the highlights and adjust the luminance just a little bit just to make it slightly pop like so. And let's bring some blue into the shadow. And also we can adjust the luminance a little bit. It will also bring some fade into the shadows. Perfect. And we can check the before and after. I think it's pretty good. I would just add a little bit more contrast. Maybe just slightly highlights and a little bit more shadows. And let's actually decrease that saturation a little bit, maybe to 18. Let's check the before and after. I think it's great. Now let's save this settings as a preset. To do that, you go to the preset tab on the left, click this plus icon right here, and click create preset. From here you can create a new group. Let's call it test, create, and let's name our preset as city. Beautiful. Don't forget to check all of the settings that you want your preset to have. I usually check them all besides the transform, calibration, and lens blur, because those are very specific for every image. So let's just keep it off. And don't forget in advanced settings to click support amount slider. This is very cool feature. I will show you how it works in a minute. Let's click create. Now, as you can see, we have our test folder here with a preset in here. And if we reset the settings for this picture, we can just go back to the preset tab called city, and it will automatically apply to this image. And here you have this intensity slider where you can adjust the amount of the preset. So if you think the preset is too strong on any other photos, you can just go down a little bit, or if you think it's too weak, we can just always bring it even more of that effect. So I would like to keep it 100 here. I think it's perfect. I hope you like this tutorial, and if you would like to copy my settings, feel free to do that and save it as a preset. And I also encourage you to create your own preset, experiment with different settings, and develop your own style. Thank you, and have a good one.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Mikita, for sharing your knowledge with us. I think our audience really appreciates these segments. And this is just a daily reminder to everyone that presets, LUTs, they're all great starting points. But as Mikita has mentioned to us, you have to learn from the process, really analyze your inspirations, and see what else you can make, or what else you can do differently to kind of improve yourself. As is customary, we will move on to the hardware segment. Mikita, as a creator, what role does color accuracy play in your work?
Well, it's probably one of the most important roles, color accuracy. As I mentioned before, since you create for social media or maybe for a client, you want to make sure that your videos or photos, the colors look consistent throughout the devices. And that's why you want to be sure that you're using a proper, correct color profile while you're editing from the device that you're editing from.
So, as is customary for our talks, we're going to talk hardware for a bit. Now, Mikita, how important is it having the right tools like a professional monitor to kind of elevate your workflow and your final work?
Well, the professional monitor, I would say, is very important if you want to really bring your color grading and like videography or photography on the next level, for a few reasons. First of all, a monitor, a bigger screen, gives you a clear look at the details. Sometimes you just don't see that the colors are destroyed, or it's kind of like going pixelated, or some other problems that you may experience, or maybe lost data in the highlights or shadows. So that's the one thing, it's just the bigger image. And second of all, it's that the professional monitor gives you an ability to kind of choose between different color modes, which is super useful. For example, if you create a content for social media, you may go to sRGB profile, and that will give you a look that kind of will be around the all social media. Or you may go to DSI or Rec 709 if you want to edit your videos and probably doing some like color grading or video editing for client work or whatever. So you just have way more flexibility to do different things in a more professional and kind of more detailed way, I would say.
Right. And I know that you're using kind of one of the newer VP2776T 4K models, the T being for Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
What would you say is your kind of favorite feature of that one?
Well, I would say, as right now, I've been using it not for a very long time, but probably my favorite is the Thunderbolt cable, like the ability to connect to my Mac using the Thunderbolt cable, because I don't have a lot of ports in my Mac computer, and I don't want to like bring a lot of different cables with me, especially when I travel. So I can just use the same cable for my SSDs, for my monitor, and other like accessories. So that being just like very helpful in terms of like being lightweight when you travel, and yeah.
Right, yeah. No, I'm using the non-Thunderbolt version of this one, and I'm very jealous of the Thunderbolt feature.
Yeah.
Now, time is running out, and we just want to wrap up with a couple of final questions. Mikita, as the kind of LUT and preset pro, if you could only use one preset or LUT for the rest of your life, which would it be?
I would probably say it's called the Cinematic One. It kind of has it all in one thing. It has all the adjustments, a little bit on exposure, a little bit on the color, and that's probably one of those LUTs that I use the most, especially for my personal projects. It's a very good starting point. Sometimes it just gives me the look that I want. So it kind of has it all. If you don't want to really edit, it kind of does the job. If you want to experiment, it gives a good starting point. It's very consistent because I feel like the colors that I edited there, they just edited the way I love it so much. So I just like keep using it everywhere. Even like for the stories that I post on my Instagram, I'm using some of the free apps where you can just drop your own LUTs there. So like use that LUT all the time.
Oh, wow.
Cinematic one.
Is that
Yep.
kind of based on your love for teal and orange as well?
Absolutely, yeah.
Got it. And yeah, again, as is customary, last question for you. Where can people find you, and do you have any exciting projects coming up?
Well, as for the last year, I mostly post all my content on Instagram, which is Mikita.yo, the handle. And I also kind of share all my collaborations with the brands there. And probably the biggest and most exciting that is coming, I'm currently working with two brands. Not gonna name them, but you're gonna see them on my Instagram very soon. And we actually gonna give away some things to the filmmakers. So we creating some awesome stuff that's gonna very, very help a lot to filmmakers to kind of elevate their stuff, whether you use the camera, professional camera, or whether you use your smartphone. So for all of the people, beginners and intermediate, maybe even pro, it's gonna be amazing.
Very exciting. I think our fans will definitely be on the lookout for that. And that's about it today, unfortunately. Thank you, Mikita, so much for sharing your valuable insights. I definitely learned a lot, and it's good to know that other people are having the whole composition versus color phase in their lives as well. But yes, I think our audience will be super appreciative of what you shared today, as well as your tutorial. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for joining us.
It was super awesome to talk to you, Billy, and I hope that you all guys learned a lot of new things and know how to approach your color grading and photo editing from this episode.
And that's a wrap. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thanks again to our guest Mikita. Remember to give him a follow on Instagram, as well as following us at ColorPro if you want to see more content like this. Give us a thumbs up, comment any questions you might have for the creator or us, as well as check out the link in the description below if you want to find out more about the monitor that Mikita uses, the VP2776T 4K, the one with the Thunderbolt feature. Bye for now, and see you next time.